And what's your approach to mentoring and teaching junior developers?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I guess for me, just listening first, just trying to figure out what they already know. And like, because it oftentimes what it comes down to is I kind of already know the answer, and just sort of like maybe you don't really know what to call it, what the problem is called, or like where that particular section of the documentation is or whatever. And it's just sort of like listening and figuring out, what they already know, and then trying to help that out. And I guess there's a lot of things that in doing that, it's sort of selfish in a way, because like there are a lot of things that I end up learning as a result.
Particular examples of stuff you've learned from?
Hannah got an opportunity to kind of like write quite a lot of tests for this one application that we were building for the city, and as a result gained quite an extensive knowledge of like this particular kind of way of spoofing services in a test suite. And so yeah, she ended up teaching me a lot about that as a result of me also having to do that later on. So
because it's an incredible privilege to work in a company where I don't feel every day put into harmful or scary positions based on who I am. And I feel like I have a lot to learn from people who do about how to navigate that and what we can do to make it better.
We give feedback, I think, above all in written form, so reviewing each other's pull requests via email. We use Semaphore to communicate with messages, with private messages, with group messages, with project-specific messages. So I think a lot of that is written. We also will talk among ourselves. Just now I needed help with a problem, and Eric came and sat next to me and kind of said, do this, this, and this. So it's communicated, I think, in multiple ways.
Yeah.
I'm finding more that the feedback here is not hierarchical. So it's not like Derek and Forrest give all the feedback.
Yeah.
We give feedback to each other. We give feedback to Forrest and Derek, and they're receptive to that.
Yeah.
So it's not as though it's always coming from the top down.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And you mentioned too the like kind of more thoughtful, drawn out or longer sessions of feedback. And usually after we finish a project or wrap up, an assignment, we'll have like a post-mortem discussion about that. Yeah. And I found, I'm not sure what you guys' experience have been, but I found that like I've really appreciated so usually it's with Derek or Forrest, and we'll sit down and talk about how things went. I've always appreciated that they've been able, it seems like they've put some thought into trying to distinguish between like feedback you should get while you're working on the project, and then feedback like kind of maybe higher level or like an alternative approach where it wouldn't have been feasible to learn while you were doing the project, but something to kind of work towards next time, or something to kind of try to do to integrate into your work.
Yeah.
Now that you don't have this intense deadline looming over you, and that's not always the case. It hasn't always been the case for me with feedback. So I always appreciate like the thoughtfulness of like there's a time and a place in our feedback kind of like pipeline for like specific types of feedback.
Yeah, definitely. Mm-hmm. And I'm really excited that more and more the three of us are giving each other feedback and becoming like the first place that we go for questions. I'm excited for that to continue to develop and for us to be our own primary resources.
Yeah. In a sense, I prefer written feedback because I think it's often more thoughtful and carefully framed, rather than unfolding spontaneously in real time. You have an opportunity to think about what you want to say, and if you're receiving the feedback, you have an opportunity to really contemplate it and then ask an appropriate follow-up question.
Yeah.
I also really appreciate as somebody who's learning like the not immediacy of it all. Mm-hmm. Like first of all, it gives you a chance, like if there's something that you don't know what it is, you can either ask like and not be interrupting someone, or you can look it up and have your own little private learning journey. And I also kind of appreciate the time to sit, like Regina said, to sit back and kind of parse what was said and really make sure that I understand the feedback before having to like talk about it. Because sometimes if it comes at you verbally, you're just like, and then later you're like thinking back over it and trying to put it all in its place. It's just a lot easier when it's written sometimes.
Yeah, like the permanency of written feedback is pretty important. I mean, there's pull requests that Forrest has commented on that I've actually bookmarked because I know I want to go back and recycle his feedback in another scenario.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think this particular trio is really really tremendous. I think we challenge each other in ways that I didn't experience. I had a job before this for 3 months, total disclosure, and I did not feel challenged by my peers or really by the work itself the way that I do here. Like, I think we push each other to be better software developers.
Yeah.
And it seems like in a totally healthy way, too.
Right.
It's never like, oh my
yeah.
God, Jean did this. I'm like,
Yeah.
it's like, oh, Jean's doing this cool thing.
Yeah, right.
Regina
exactly.
figured this out. That's awesome. Like,
Yeah.
it benefits all of us. It's not like, that's at my expense. So
No,
that's really
no.
cool. It's
Yeah.
a great dynamic.
That's true.
I think one thing that is really cool about DataMade and about like the cohort of female, like my female cohort, all girl cohort of junior developers is just like, it's really neat to have like a group of people that you can sit down and kind of learn something with.
So as a junior engineer, I feel really comfortable asking questions and taking the time to figure things out and really get to the heart of what I'm doing, as opposed to kind of just tying things together and making sure that they work.